Hello! Something a little bit different today in the form of a toy grade type quad from the people at RCMoment. Provide this for review. I'm not actually sure what it's called. Let's call it the TK116 or the Vitality. It's basically a little foldable type drone, kind of styled around the Mavic look. Let's see what's in the box. Okay, so the first thing you find is the little drone itself. Nice and small, will fit somewhere. You can see it's got the brushed motors and the little gearings for them. But folds down quite nicely, it's very easy to get back out. Just kind of a push fit. I mean, it's tight enough to, it's not going to just fall out of flight. A couple of things I liked about this one. The camera on the front, although you can't do anything in flight, you can change the angle and then go fly with it. So if you want a pure top-down view and fly upwards, you can do. Or if you want to go forwards, you can do that too. Also, I like the fact it's got a individual power button here. So sometimes it's the fact that when you put the battery in, it's on. With this one, you have to press the power, and then you've got these nice LEDs, green at the front, red at the bottom, and these little headlights as well. But I like the fact that it's on a button. Battery compartment's here, and we've got the battery there. The one that comes in it is a 1S 1300 mAh battery, which is all good, but the ones that also come extra with it, so it's a really nice touch that they give you free batteries to go with, but both these ones are just 850, which is a bit of a shame that they weren't all a high capacity. But the other things you get, it of course has its own remote. This is taking 4 AA's here. It's got the stick, which are both sprung. This is because this will hold its altitude, so the idea is you go up, you let go, it holds its altitude. Hasn't got any position hold with GPS or anything, but altitude hold's really nice when you're starting off. Quite a nice feeling controller this, a little tiny bit awkward in the hands, doesn't quite sit there, but it's got the individual buttons on the side here for doing various things. You've got video, camera, you've got a flip button, turn lights on and off, you've got a rates button, and you've got headless mode. So to go with that, it's a Wi-Fi FPV thing, so you've got one of these holders which snaps in reasonably nice there, and you can just pop your phone in. And finally, in this other box that came with it, you've got some spare props, a USB cable for charging, and some prop guards, which look like they just snap on. Not sure about using these. They'll especially get in the way, because I mean, the great thing about this is it's so easy just to fold it back up. You literally just do that. So you wouldn't really want prop guards on. I mean, they pop on and off, but you know, I'm not sure I'll bother with that. Finally, you've got the instruction leaflet. That seems pretty good. It's got a fair old bits and pieces about how to fly and how to charge and stuff. You've of course got the QR codes for the app you're going to need to connect to FPV. Not sure if they do an iOS one, unless they've just spelt it wrong. They've put ISO. Maybe that's supposed to say iOS for QR code. Then they've got Android and Google. Not sure I know the difference between Android and Google. Google developed the Android operating system, but there you go. Small problems aside with the Chinglish in the literature. Let's get it charged up and let's give this a go, see how it is to fly. Well, here we're out of the field, and after weeks of really bad gales and terrible weather, it's come out lovely. Still a little bit cold, but good. It's still so light, it's nothing to it. It's only a little 1S thing, and obviously brushed geared motors, so let's see how it goes. So I'd done the normal thing here when I fly these sort of drones. I took one camera to mount my head, I took another to look at the sticks, then I recorded on the drone itself using a SD card into the camera, although you can also record on the phone, but that might get a bit patchy if it's laggy. So I was going to do a big thing of sort of talking through it as I went, but it turned out that I sort of rambled along too much whilst I was figuring out what stuff did. So let me just fill you in on what I found. Firstly, for general flying, the Barometer Hold works really nicely. You just put it up to a certain altitude and it will sit there. Obviously it'll drift about in the wind, but you don't really have the worry of it dropping. As you sort of push it forward and sort of fly faster, you will notice it dropping, but as you then come out of that, it comes back up again. So I've never had the instance of it hitting the floor while I was flying along quite low anyway. That's a good thing. So this uses Wi-Fi FPV through the app, and the app's quite nice as well, that you can control the whole thing from the phone, or you have the option to use a controller. I would use a controller, and then it frees up a lot of the screen from the overlays. Here's the problem though, Wi-Fi FPV just isn't very good. It's a problem with lagging, it's a problem with the general range you've got, because we're just using the Wi-Fi antenna on the phone to try and communicate with something some distance away. It's laggy, it can sort of freeze up and then not come back. Here's a bit of a scene you can see here. If you look at the phone mounted to the controller, you can see that sometimes it will just lock up for a long period of time and then come back, and this is at a time when I was far away and I sort of lost orientation. I was having trouble working out where I was, and I just couldn't trust the screen to tell me anything at various points. I mean, obviously it got back okay, but for this sort of thing, and let's remember, this isn't a professional photo drone, it's just a toy drone, which happens to do something like FPV but not quite. So I would use it for framing up a photo. You might take a photo, you might take a bit of video or something, but I'd always want to have eyes on the drone. I was looking up, looking down, looking up, looking down. That's how you have to fly this thing. That's just how it is. As far as the camera goes, it's quite nice that it's got a reasonable wide angle lens, so you're not sort of feeling like you're looking down a short tunnel. It's not particularly good quality. It's 720p at 20 frames a second, and you can see here that it tends to it sort of screen tears a little bit, and I guess the bit rate's not very high. I did like though that you could angle the camera, so I did this bit shooting straight downwards. You'd have to be very careful with how you edited the footage together though, because as you move the quad around when it's in this, it distorts at the corners and it's all a bit weird. One thing you can't do is tilt the camera up, so if you fly along at any sort of speed, you are looking at the floor. No matter how high you are, you're looking at the floor. So things to take into account there. So just for doing regular flying along, it's got some quite nice features in there. It's got two rates. The first one's very gentle. The second one doesn't go crazy, but you can at least go along with some speed there. It's got a headless mode that works very well. And it even does a flip, although it took me a while to figure out how to do that, because you have to hold in the button and then press the stick in a certain direction. What lets this down, unfortunately, is the yaw. It's just not a proportional control. I tested this over a period of just literally touching very slightly, and it yaws exactly the same speed that if you mash the stick all the way over, which is a bit of a shame because it means that it's much harder to do nice sort of flowing coordinated turns. Battery life was pretty impressive actually. The larger one I flew for 11 minutes before it landed by itself. The subsequent smaller ones I flew for about 8 minutes, but I landed those when the LEDs started flashing, so they didn't just land on their own. And that's the way the failsafe works. So if you turn the control off mid-flight, the drone will come slowly down, a little bit too slowly for my liking. It tends to sort of drift a little bit. So all in all, as far as sort of the toy drone market goes, this is not bad. It flies okay, its FPV is pretty much what you'd expect from these. One of the things I like is you get the free lipos and you're ready to go, and of course it folds out and then very easily for transport. That's nice. It doesn't fly quite as well as something like the Cyma because of this lack of proportion on the yaw, although the Cyma's camera's generally more narrow, which is not great. So, you know, it's much of a muchness in this sort of range, but this is an okay one. This came from the good folks at RCMoment, and of course I'll have a link down below, and there's even a voucher code if you're interested in this sort of one. So check it out below. For me, I will bid you farewell for now, and I will see you in the next video. Bye.